Freeze, FBI.
No.
FBI, freeze. What? I know we're not the FBI, of course I know that. But what I'm supposed to say? Soup Central. They just laugh at us. Okay, I can try, yeah? Soup Central investigation. Freeze, Soup Central Bureau of Investigation. Soupy. That could actually work. Yevgeny Prigozhin, one of the best-known figures in modern Russia. But how did he become the troll farm king and owner of the infamous private military company Wagner? Let me tell you. Prigozhin was introduced to the life of crime at an early age. Already in 1979, at the age of 18, he was caught stealing and was given a suspended sentence of 2 years and 6 months in prison. He served his sentence working at a chemical plant in Veliki Novgorod. Soon after this, Yevgeny returned to St. Petersburg and joined a criminal gang. He was finally caught after a burglary spree and was sentenced to 12 years in prison for robbery, theft, fraud, and involving minors in criminal activity. In total, Yevgeny spent 9 years behind the bars, and his time was crucial later in his life when he started recruiting soldiers to fight in his private military company Wagner. After he was released from prison, Yevgeny bought a hot dog stand and started selling wieners in Leningrad. Apparently, the business was looming, as he said in an interview that the rubles were piling up faster than his mother could count them.
That's a lot of money, boss.
During the 90s, Prigozhin conducted business in casinos and fine dining. His most famous restaurant, New Island, became Vladimir Putin's favorite dining spot, and it also hosted people like Jacques Chirac and George W. Bush. Through his restaurant, Prigozhin grew closer to Putin. This led to his company Concord Catering winning numerous government contracts, and his companies fed millions of school children, military personnel, and government workers around Russia. All these contracts made Prigozhin a Russian billionaire. In today's value of ruble, his fortune is estimated to be worth almost $10,000.
10,000.
10,000?
The money was then spent on creating 2 organizations involved in Russia's hybrid warfare strategy: the Internet Research Agency and PMC Wagner. The Internet Research Agency is probably the most famous troll farm in the world. Its goal was to conduct online propaganda and information campaigns to benefit Putin and his henchmen. Initially, the company focused on Putin's opposition inside Russia, but once that was completely demolished, they moved on to Ukraine and to the West. And initially, that worked extremely well. Their hybrid operations had a big impact on politics in the US and inside Europe. There's actually strong evidence that the IRA influenced elections in the US, Netherlands, Germany, and in the UK, and even Prigozhin admitted this in a statement by saying that, "Gentlemen, we interfered, we are interfering, and we will interfere." Working at the IRA was considered a good job, and it paid well by Russian standards. The agency employed students, journalists, and other talented people who only had to follow one rule: never mock Putin. But it was also extremely tedious. One ex-employee told the Washington Post that it's a job where you have to write that black is white and white is black, and that they felt like they were in some kind of factory that turned lying, telling untruths into an industrial assembly line. In July of 2023, it was reported that the IRA disbanded. Soon after this, disgruntled ex-employees revealed that, for example, the victims of the Donbas genocide were actually crisis actors. His second big project, private military company Wagner, has been an essential part of Russia's war efforts around the world. By his own words, the group was assembled in 2014 to support Russia's war effort in Ukraine. The group's not-so-public leader, Dmitry Utkin, is an old associate of Prigozhin's, but he's also known for his tattoos that seem to be some kind of tribute to Nazi Germany. Since then, Wagner has been involved in many conflicts including Syria, Madagascar, Mozambique, Sudan, Central African Republic, Mali, Burkina Faso, and of course Ukraine. They've been accused of atrocities and war crimes in most of these locations. Wagner has also integrated various neo-Nazi groups into their ranks. The most infamous of these is the Rusich group, which is led by one of the most notorious military figures in Russia, Alexei Milchakov.
Я нацист. Я нацист. Я не буду углубляться. Националист, там, патриот, имперское направление и так далее. Я прямо говорю, я нацист.
Yikes. Yeah.
Wagner is known for recruiting prisoners to fight in the front lines. According to US intel, the group has recruited over 40,000 prisoners to act as cannon fodder at the front lines.
Но не всегда живыми возвращают.
After fighting for 6 months, these convicts are then released back to society, where they often commit more horrendous crimes. As a private military group, Wagner has had various creative marketing campaigns. They recruit from social media, spread ads and stickers, and even produce their own movies. Now, here's a word of warning. They're shit and no one should watch them. Here's a trailer for one of the movies called Tourist.
Stop it. Get some help.
In Ukraine, Wagner played a large role in the Bakhmut meat grinder, and their troops finally invaded the town after it had been turned into rubble. Prigozhin was constantly complaining about the lack of equipment and ammunition, and harshly criticized the Russian military leaders Shoigu and Gerasimov.
弾薬が 70% 不足している。Шойгу! Герасимов! 弾薬は一体どこにあるんだ?
Finally, in June 2023, Prigozhin's Wagner, led by Utkin, launched a rebellion against the Russian military leadership, capturing the Russian city Rostov-on-Don and heading all the way to Moscow. The attempt fell flat, perhaps due to Yevgeny's key allies like Sergei Surovikin abandoning him, and he was eventually moved to Belarus. Prigozhin's mansion was searched, and the Russian authorities claimed to have found wigs, weapons, sledgehammers, and stacks of cash from the flat. In addition, selfies taken by the man himself showed him wearing interesting disguises. Strangely, these days Prigozhin is allegedly living in St. Petersburg and hasn't faced any consequences for the mutiny.
Listen, you can't blame us for being a little suspicious.
The man also seemed to have balls of steel. Like, literally. The insider reported that Prigozhin has steel balls implants to beef up his small junk. Apparently he also likes to copulate with young ladies and exchange fluids with them in order to stay young and vital. We just received information that today, on the 24th of August 2023, Mr. Prigozhin and his close associate, Dmitry Utkin, have died in a plane crash. Let's take a look at the footage here. we gotta change this into past tense, don't we? To summarize, Yevgeny Prigozhin lived a colorful life, going from low-life thug into hot dog mogul and restaurant tycoon. He was also the owner of Russia's biggest troll farm and private military company, finally trying to overthrow Putin himself. All this could happen only in Russia, a country where black is white and white is black. That's all folks, but stay tuned for more of the Kremlin Files.